Warami Beda Gadarag Nyura. In Darug language, that's welcome friends to Darug country. Remember, in our country, it's only been 227 years in Australia since we've had poor people, since we've had homeless people, since we've had orphans, and we had no jails. We did have wars with the English, okay? We did have wars with each other, but never over country.
You know, I was born and bred here in this country, grew up in Australia. I went to a local school.
Sometimes things can be challenging because there are a lot of misconceptions out there. So it does take a measure of courage sometimes to speak, because sometimes you're fearful and sometimes you're worried about, other people might think you to be this way or that way.
Dad said to me the other day, he goes, the Muslims are going to take over. So I said, Dad, I don't know if you noticed, I said, we were invaded 227 years ago. Not Australia Day to us, it's Invasion Day. Okay, it's a day of sadness and a day of mourning. It's when my direct people here in Sydney, my ancestors, my direct family, were murdered, massacred, killed, and there's a lot of that history that's been written out of Australia.
I was naive. I thought that that's over there and that would never happen in Australia. For the first time in my life, I felt I couldn't go out my own front door because of the way that I looked.
Text messages went out through the week, encouraging locals to turn out for what they called Leb and Wog Bashing Day.
I was getting messages and phone calls from people saying, whatever you do, don't leave your house.
Their target, anyone of Middle Eastern appearance who they claim have been harassing locals at the beach.
Little did I know that I was boarding at the same time as the suicide bomber. Bang. Just that, not even a sound.
What's happening, mate? Do you know?
No, we just had a big explosion.
Explosion on train, yeah?
Or a bang.
It's 10 years since the London bombings. I have a huge amount of pain every day that I deal with. There's nothing good about not having legs. Nothing.
I watched the news and I listened to the radio like everyone else. And I had seen the footage of people who looked like me being bashed. And I saw the footage of people who look like me attacking people in beachside suburbs. I wanted to show both of those groups of people and the media. I wasn't scared that I was going to go out my front door. I wanted people to know that it is safe to come back to Cronulla. And if they saw me running, dark-skinned guy with a big nose, it must be okay if he feels safe. So what I decided to do was, for that one day that everyone was trying to stop me from running, I would give them 100 days of me running.
So I said, right, I'm going to start running. For the first 10 days I took my driver's licence just in case someone found my body in some laneway somewhere. I wanted anyone who found me to know who I was. But it was dead that day. Literally no people. Everyone was safe inside. So I ran past here and I hadn't seen anyone until I got to the Cronulla Surf Club, and there was a little boy who was maybe 10 or 11. He was playing near the sand by himself, and what looked like parents talking next to the Cronulla Surf Club. I got excited. I thought, wow, this is great. Finally, there are some brave people that they're out, trying to reconnect and show that they're not scared. So I started running about 100 metres. I saw the parents yelled to the child, say, come quick, come away. I felt really bad because it looked like they were calling him over because they were scared of what I was going to do. And maybe they thought I was going to be violent because of the way I looked. But just as he got to them, he ducked around them, like underneath their arms, and started coming back. And he stood where I was going to be running and smiled. And then he put his arm out so I could touch his hand when I ran past. He had no right to be so brave. When all us adults were hiding in our houses. I think he's my angel. He doesn't probably even realise what he did.
Okay, you want to look at your ancestors because they were all boat people. Yeah. Really? Come on. We are all meant to be here now. We're all meant to share.
It is difficult sometimes to remove misunderstandings. But the Australian people are great people. We're in it together.
I think people are always scared of difference, and that goes for any culture. They're no better or no worse than any other group of people.
God states in the Holy Quran, which is our holy book, He states, "We have made you into tribes and nations so that you may come to know one another, and not to hurt one another and not to fight one another."
The more divisions we have, the greater the divide, the greater the chasm in which people can become extreme and violently extreme. And that's what is so important to me to get rid of in our country. I don't want anyone else to live a life maimed as I do.
You as a chaplain in this school, how are you helping your students being prepared for a world with lots of different cultures and traditions, mixing with people from all different backgrounds?
It is the aim of God that we do come together, that we do carry each other, that we do carry the burdens of each other, good times and bad times. We are one community. And these are always great opportunities where we can come together and we can ask the questions. There may be questions that we've always been thinking about, and I think these are the opportunities really that we put the shyness aside, and if you have something that you've always thought of. I mean, it's something that I really press upon my kids, that, you know, you feed the person who's hungry irrespective of faith. Regardless of nationality, regardless of faith, regardless if one is an atheist, you always have that empathy and that sympathy. These are fundamental teachings and universal principles and an underpinning really of society, that we do look after each other.
It is the responsibility of all of us to come together to say, how do we end this? Because it affects all of us. I don't feel a fear or a hatred or a bitterness towards a group of people, towards any Muslim. I'm absolutely devoted to saying, how do we get rid of this together? Because it affects that group just as it affects all of us. Muslims died that morning on my train. Terrorism is not selective in who it targets. We need to think about what are we doing about peace, and how do we do peace, and how important it is for us to think about peace as a verb and something we did and something we practice with each other.
So what are you doing in your capacity, regardless of, you may view it as insignificant, but that is going to be the bridge of society.
Winangai, winangai, winangai. Narrabagali, Mirabu, Gaga.
Leeds is where 3 of the 4 bombers came from, and their community was devastated. Immediately, I reached out to that community. I actually said, how do I be the bridge for this? Because I'm the natural person between one end and another side. And walking is the most challenging and difficult thing for me every day. The idea was, I think I might walk from Leeds, so up the top of England, down to London, just under 500 kilometres. That would be the greatest statement I could make to get people to come together, because it's the most difficult thing I could possibly do. If going out and reaching out to someone else is difficult, then it can't be as difficult as what I'm prepared to do myself. And it worked. It was amazing. People came out and they walked and they talked with each other.
What would you say to people that say, you're just a weird, hippie, positive lady, and everything is always fantastic and fabulous?
And there is nothing cosy and huggy and smiley about peace. Often people misconceive the work of a peace builder. It's not the sugar-coated job that perhaps people perceive it to be.
We're talking about being the bridge. It's not going to be easy. Sometimes it's a hard road, and sometimes it's uphill, and sometimes we have to walk on a few thorns.
I don't believe in a world where people should just sit back and they see a wrong and allow that wrong to continue without it being corrected.
I had never done anything to prevent what happened on that day.
I've witnessed discrimination before,
And I always thought it was someone else's responsibility.
I'm angry, and that's okay, because my anger I use to keep me focused, to keep me working, to make sure that this doesn't happen again. We're talking about lives here. We're talking about people's lives. That's all we have. It's the most precious thing we have.
And every life is priceless. And one human soul is worth the souls of all humanity.
There's one thing about being peaceful by yourself or within your own suburb where you feel safe, or within your own culture or within your own religion. The exciting thing for me is trying to still be peaceful while working with people of difference. Because a lot of people think that they don't need to do anything to create peace because they're pretty peaceful. Always someone else's responsibility, yeah?
Building and co-creating the types of places that we want to live in now and that we want to build for our children to grow up in, and for our children to find that it's absolutely normal and second nature to have a community that's made up of lots of different people from lots of different places, and that's nothing to fear, but it's everything to gain from.
I really believe that it's the small things that people do that make the difference.
It's about finding the little things that people presume are in conflict and dispelling the stereotype.
You know, everybody can be the bridge. It's saying and it's yelling out, everybody can do their part.